So what is the number one trick to trading on sports? What is it that defines the way that you do something in this particular market? Why is it so different to what you would do in financials? And also, why would you never give money to somebody else to trade on sports markets? I'll show you in this video. If you want instant access to new videos as they're uploaded, then please click on the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to comment on the videos. And if you're interested in learning more about BetAngel, visit betangel.com today and download a free trial. So the number one trick actually isn't a trick at all. It's just a bit of common sense. But it explains a number of things. It explains how sports trading is very different from financial markets. But it also explains why it's a complete folly that you should ever give money to anybody else to trade with on sports. It just doesn't make any sense. I suggest anyway it's much more rewarding to do something yourself, but let me explain all the detail behind this. To do that, let's have a look at financial markets. Say, for example, that we're trading on oil. If we buy and sell oil, we will do it because we expect the price to go up, to go down, or whatever. We can go long or short, but there is never any end point for oil. Well, maybe in a few hundred years, but in market terms, the market doesn't open and close. Okay, it opens in the morning and closes in the evening, or necessarily doesn't, or depending upon what instrument you got. So if you're buying Vodafone shares, the market will open and close every day, but there's no end point to that particular share. There's no definitive terminative point within the market. If you're options trading, then there is, because you'll buy an option to expire at some point in the future. But when you look at sports, there is a very clearly defined point at which the market closes and it's all finished. So when you look at a horse race, if you look at a 5 furlong horse race, the market's opened maybe the night before, and then when the race starts, a minute later, the market is completely finished. But the characteristic that you find is, for example, on horse racing, you have in the summer you have 3 cards in the meeting, 3 or 4 in the evening as well. So if we take the smaller value of that and we say that there are 6 meetings during the day, each one of those meetings will have 7 races in it. So in fact, over the course of the day, you have 42 markets. And when you look at that, that clearly shows you something. So it's a bit like having a financial market that has a defined starting point and ending point, and there are 42 of them. And that actually changes radically the way that you would attempt to trade the market. So when I look at the market today, we've actually got 3 race cards in the afternoon and 4 in the evening. I know I'm going to get a whole raft of opportunities over the course of the day. I will have many opportunities to trade. And also, a big advantage is if I look at a market and I have no idea of what's actually going on, I can just walk away from it, make a cup of tea, do something else, go get some lunch. There are many opportunities to either do something or to not do something. So that is pretty radical. That's very, very different from financial markets. But also look at it from the perspective of what you're trying to achieve. Everybody wants to make a bit of profit, but you don't have to go into each market thinking, I must make £100 or £200 or whatever you want to make. If you're in a financial market and you open a trade at the beginning of the day and you closed it at the end, you may have a target that you're trying to achieve. But also, if you think about it, the only way to make much more money is to leverage your stake, to borrow much more money or use much bigger stakes in financial markets. But if we take racing, for example, if I have a bank of £1,000, do you think you could get £1,000 out of that? Well, maybe not. Do you think you could get £500 out of that? Well, that's quite an ask on any particular trade to get a 50% return on your trade. But do you think you could get £10 out of it? If you have £1,000, could you trade it and get £10 out of it? And generally the answer would be, well, probably. I've got a fair chance of using £1,000, putting it in and out of the market one way or another, and walking away with a tenner. That's quite an achievable target. But of course, what you've actually got is we have 42 opportunities to do that. Well, we have more than that today, but let's say that we have 42 opportunities to do that. So if you were able to get £10 per race, that would add up to £420 over the course of the day on your bank of £1,000. So actually, there is a huge opportunity there, because you don't have to earn much per race in order to end up with a reasonable total at the end of the day. And that is because we put £1,000 in the first race, we trade it and make £10. That money becomes instantly available for us to use in the second race, where we trade it and make £10. And then the third race, and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, I've paraphrased and summarised all of this in such a way that it would probably be unrealistic to imagine that you'd go through all 42 races and never make a loss. So necessarily, it's going to be a mixture of your profits and losses over the course of the day. But what I'm trying to get you focused on is saying that actually you don't need to earn much per race to end up with a huge total at the end of the day. If we imagine that you were perfect, which is unrealistic, but let's imagine that for the moment, and you got £10 out of each race using your £1,000, you would have £420 at the end of the day on a £1,000 bank, a 42% return on capital. And that is essentially the difference between trading a sports market and trading a financial market. There is a radical difference between the two. So when you're trading the sports market, you don't have to worry so much about getting a massive return on your stake. You just need to get something on it and then do that reasonably consistently over a period of time. And if you look at how many opportunities there are over the year, there are tens of thousands. So if you did tennis, football, cricket, horse racing, there are so many sports that you can actually initiate and execute a trade tens of thousands of times over the year. So that brings me to my other point as well, which is if somebody comes to you and say, can you give me money to trade with? And you say, why is that? And they say, well, I need a big bank to work with. Absolute rubbish. It's actually a disadvantage because, if you have £1,000 in the market and you're trying to get a tenner out of it, that's relatively easy. If you have £10,000 and you're trying to get 100 out of it, you may not even be able to get the £10,000 into the market and out of the market safely to get your £100. So it doesn't work. There is absolutely no reason why you'd need to borrow or go to friends to ask for significant amounts of money. You actually have a small bank and then you work that bank fairly quickly. So when you see people starting up funds to trade on sports markets or people asking for money, you've got to ask why. There have been some very high profile cases of people that have tried to raise money to trade on sports and it's all blown up and basically, they've lost the lot. And it's probably because they were just gambling. They definitely weren't trading, because if you trade, you know exactly the sort of problem that I've described will get in your way. And you also know that you don't need a very large bank. So, some people sort of say, oh, yeah, it's not fair, Peter, you've got a large bank. Well, I could do if I wanted to, but the vast majority of the time I don't use it. I can't use it. Not possible for me to get the money through the market. And also, I'm more focused on the quantity of opportunity. And that's one of the key tricks with sports trading. It's not that you do a fantastic trade, it's just that you get something out of the market at relatively low risk and you do it very often. And hopefully, if you do 10,000 events over the course of the year, you only need a small amount of money to make on average over those 10,000 events, and it turns into a much larger amount of money. So, I would say that that's the number one trick that you have with sports trading. So how can BetAngel help you achieve this particular strategy? Well, one of the tools that we have within BetAngel is called Guardian, and it actually is a piece of software all of its own practically. We could break it out and create that product on its own. But basically Guardian is a multi-market tool. It's designed so that you can load up loads of markets all together, tennis, football, racing, whatever, all into one screen. You can analyze, monitor, and do all of your activity from there. A couple of clicks will transport you to the main interface. But inside Guardian, there's a whole range of things that you can do as well. So Guardian manages all of your positions in the background so that you don't have to worry about it while you're working on another market. You can actually be working on one market, say racing or football, while tennis is taking place in Guardian, or vice versa, however you want to do that. But also we have watch lists, so that if you want to segment your activity and display it on a very easily definable and usable area of your screen, you can actually stick it into a watch list via Guardian. But you can also automate all of your activity as well through Guardian. So that will allow you to create automated strategies, and that could be fully fledged strategies, or it may just alert you that an opportunity has occurred in one of those markets that you're monitoring. You can also connect it to Excel and do multiple spreadsheets through there. So you could, if you wanted to, load up loads of different markets in Guardian, connect some in Excel, put some through the automation, and actually be working in another market at the same time. You can do all of that simultaneously. So I recommend, if you're interested in exploring what I've just talked about, fire up BetAngel, fire up Guardian, and have a good play with it, because that's a key element of the software. If you're interested in learning more about BetAngel, visit betangel.com and download a free trial today.